Hello, everyone. Welcome to Campus Safety Voices. I'm Robin Hattersley from Campus Safety Magazine. Community policing is a critical component of college campus law enforcement, and the College of New Jersey has implemented its Community Law Enforcement Affirmative Relations CLEAR unit to foster relations and partnerships with its community. In this interview, I speak with Tim Grant, who is the College of New Jersey's Chief of Campus Police Services, as well as one of this year's Campus Safety Director for your finalists. In this interview, Tim explains what CLEAR is, why it was developed, and the overall results of the school's community policing efforts. So, here's my interview with Chief Grant. Enjoy the show. What is the Community Law Enforcement Affirmative Relations CLEAR unit, and why did you create it, and why did you believe CLEAR was needed?
So the acronym CLEAR, which I'm glad you gave out what it meant. So we stole right from the Attorney General's office. It was an act of blatant piracy that we took the name, right? But so in New Jersey, the Attorney General's office has some mandatory training, and they use the acronym CLEAR, and that's for a lot of its diversity training and its continuing education, cultural diversity and de-escalation. So there's 7 parts to it. It's all law enforcement dealing with different communities: African-American community, Muslim, Asian, Sikh, Latino, LGBT. And we've added to it our own understanding bias, crimes, incidents, and reporting, mental health first aid, the Columbia suicide rating scale, resiliency scale, resiliency training, and de-escalation training. So all officers receive those trainings. And why did I create it was a second part of that, right? So the reason that the title campus police officer is used and not just police officer is sort of to signify the special relationship between the community and the police. We're the community caregivers on campus. Police officers have a heart for public service. Every applicant that I interview to be a police officer, when we ask why they want to be in police work, they all say the same thing: I want to help people. And my answer is, you came to the right place, right? Because that's what we do here. So when we ask an applicant, how should people be treated? They all answer the same: with respect, with dignity. They're the core qualities of interacting with the community and what we're looking for in an officer, and particularly the CLEAR officers who have to do the outreach. So I like to think we go beyond the one and done events. You know, we do tabling exercises, handing out brochures, coffee with a cop. I guess caffeine goes for both cops and college students. Yeah, they're nocturnal, the college students. We're going to cut it off at the Red Bull, though. And, they're all good. They're all good programs, but there's a danger, I think, is being perceived as perfunctory, and that we're checking a box with a tabling exercise. We're in a place in policing now that we need to build enduring relationships. And New Jersey has the most diverse population in the country. And on college campuses, there's a growing number of non-traditional students, first-generation students, and we've had a spike in mental health concerns. Our officers have intervened on many mental health crises involving students and some staff. So we've taken on some non-traditional police roles. The officers have been very willing to take on more of a social service role. And no matter what, we can't withdraw from a call. We're out there, right? So we as leaders have to ensure that they're equipped, that they're prepared. Simply put, the training increases performance. There's an old saying: we don't rise to the level of a crisis, we fall to the level of our training. right? So our officers work in partnership with the college's mental health services. The county crisis mobile unit will come out and evaluate anybody who's in crisis, and the officers have a relationship with them. Every officer is expected to be community oriented, right? But we have one clear officer on each squad so that there's somebody that's able to do outreach 24 hours. And we don't dissuade anybody from doing it, but we don't want to step on each other either, as far as reaching out and having meetings through Zoom and so forth. We have one officer, Desi, who's sort of a one-man show. Sometimes when I get up in the morning, I look at my email and I have another 5 Zoom meetings I'm attending with Desi that he's scheduled overnight while he's doing the overnight shift. So, of course, that's been one of the benefits of the new Zoom world, is the remote access to meetings. Our officers have been meeting, from the patrol cars, sometimes even when they're quarantined at home, they'll still go on the meetings with student groups, with other stakeholders, the mental health folks, anti-violence initiatives. So, even a short 15-minute meeting can catch up with different partners on campus and different student groups.
So as far as the CLEAR training is concerned, can you go into some details as to what kind of training and what the facets of the training involve?
Yeah, well, if I can give a couple examples of what we do. We have, for instance, with student government, we have a liaison, and his name's Andrew. So he's a student who is in student government. We meet weekly with both the officers and who's ever working the shift at the time, and myself. And he brought a great idea to us that we jumped on, and that was, we developed a partnership with the criminology students, where we have weekly live presentations from law enforcement officers from agencies across the state and beyond. It's been a great collaboration. Of course, many of the criminology students, they're looking at law enforcement as a possible profession, right? And the classroom provides the theory, but this gives them a chance to learn from the practitioners. The presentations are all given over Zoom, so that speakers are much more accessible. Our first speaker we had this semester was a crime analyst from California. We had a Capitol police officer speak, which was very timely, but he happened to be an alum, and he really spoke more on his pathway to getting into the field. We had a New Jersey State Police officer who spoke about the importance of credibility during interviews. He's an expert interviewer. And upcoming, we have a detective from Jersey City Juvenile Division who melds investigative expertise with a caring approach to her job. So we're very intentional about who we invite, and attendance has grown weekly. Even officers from around the county have been joining us, because it's not just like a speaker, it's also a training too. They're learning and partnering. So we've been really excited about that. And one of our really sort of the crown jewel, I think, of our campus police community service has been our involvement with a food pantry on campus. So our student population, and it's growing across the country, has food insecurities. It's grown each year. And our student affairs office had proposed the idea of a food pantry on campus a few years ago. But the sticking point was just having physical space for it. Nobody wants to give up space. So we at Campus Police had an office space away from our headquarters. It was a small substation. It was really just a little office that sometimes officers would do a report in. But one of our officers proposed that we share the space and put the pantry there. So facilities put shelving in the room, and we began taking in the non-perishable food donations that student affairs had collected as before we even had approval for it. And we did run into a couple growth pains or obstacles there. First was when we went to pick up food from the food distribution center that sends the food to all food pantries in the campus. We went there with a couple of pickup trucks and people from student affairs, campus police. We loaded up the pickup trucks, and the director of the food distribution center came over and said, "Who gets the invoice?" Well, none of us thought that we were paying for food that was going to a food pantry, even though we had met several times. So lesson learned. We student affairs took that one. They dipped into their budget for that. But then we realized we had to find a funding source. We took some donations, and since then, the Alumni Association has been financially supportive, and they've sort of adopted the pantry as one of their causes. So that's been a great partnership that worked out. Might have been better to do beforehand, but and along the way, there were some critics who thought that campus police simply wasn't the right place to house the food pantry. They thought that students in need might be hesitant to utilize a shop if campus police was involved. And some were, pretty vocal about it, but it proved to be just the opposite. And fortunately, because of our strong relationship with student affairs, that we overcame the detractors, and it's something that has just benefited everyone involved. Because even now, especially during COVID, the demand has gone up, and there has been virtually no staffing, no hours. But if somebody needs it, they call campus police, and we open it 24 hours a day. And it's really been a great way for our officers to meet students one-on-one and in such a helpful way. So we call it the shop. The pantry is called the shop, and it's really become a symbol of the durability of our relationship with the community and with student affairs. So
what has been, obviously this is a great result of, and I don't know if this is so much about CLEAR training, but just about overall campus relations. But as far as your CLEAR training, and also as far as your campus relations efforts, what have been some of the results?
Well, that certainly was one. We formed a partnership with an off-campus group called Secondhand Bikes. Anybody who's worked on campus has probably seen, it always mystifies me why when students move out, they leave their bikes so often. We have come up with about 50 bikes that are just chained to racks throughout campus. And we take them for safekeeping, but after a year, then we're looking to dispose of them, not throw them away. So Secondhand Bikes was operated by an alum of the college, TCNJ, and it gave an opportunity for us to donate the bikes there. And the way that they run their operation is to have those in need come in and fix up the bike. And when they fix it themselves, then they get to keep the bike. So that's been a great partnership. And if I can, I think, because community policing, and that's really CLEAR is our name for community policing, and everybody has their, it's really what you make of it. And I think it really pays off dividends when we're in a crisis, because those relationships are already formed. There's that old football expression, at any given Sunday. It goes back when traditionally football games were played on Sunday. Now they're every 6 minutes when they come on. It doesn't matter what day, but refers to the fact that any team can upset a favorite on any given day. And in police work, it's really any given minute, right? That your whole world might change. So probably the most trying time for campus police is when there's a loss of a student, right? There's just a pall of sorrow that covers the campus. And we symbolize that we shroud our badges with black and hang purple bunting at the college entranceways. And police are at the forefront from the very onset. It begins with the investigation of the death, but this is where laying the groundwork with relationships for a crisis is going to come and be rewarded with the collaboration of everybody. So when we have a traumatic event on campus, and I'm using the death of a student as an example, we're immediately partnering with, on the legal side, the prosecutor's office and the ME's, the medical examiner's office, but also with the dean of students' office and the AVP of housing, the communications office on the college side. And if you look at protocols, it says all those people need to be notified. For us, it's not so much a notification as a call to action, because all those people are going to come to campus police, to our headquarters. It doesn't matter the time of day or night, they're going to come. And I'm not calling so much the dean of students office, and I'm calling by name. I'm calling Jordan and Beth and Dave and Kelly, and they're going to show up. And the campus police station becomes the emergency operations center, regardless of the crisis. And so in real time, we're breaking down responsibilities. There's protocols that are written in advance, but each case is so nuanced that you really have to be working together as a team and in real time for things to run smoothly and that there's no breakdowns. So in a case like that, campus police will make the first notification to family. The student affairs will be looking at all the contacts of the student, and after the family's notified, they'll be notifying whether they're involved in sports teams and the professors and the deans and so forth before a larger announcement goes out. So we also set up a face-to-face meeting with the family. Usually it's just the parents, but sometimes it's additional family members. And again, we'll meet as a team, meaning the student affairs and campus police, and sort of walk the parents through the process that's going. And we're going to ask them if they want a patrol car at the funeral, if they want a officer to stand post at the viewing if they're having one. And the answer has always been yes, and they appreciate the custom. They're part of the TCNJ family. And I find no matter how many people represent the college at the funeral or the viewing, everyone recognizes the police officer. They see the patch, they see the vehicle out front, they see the officer give a final salute when the casket goes by. And it's meaningful and it carries on. And also, I believe for the officers, it's participating in the funeral is cathartic. There's sort of an emotional need to be there, especially if you're at the scene. And all the officers feel the same, there, but for the grace of God. They're thrust into a traumatic situation, and sharing with others the rituals of a memorial can be healing to everybody. So any measure of solace or degree of comfort we can give the family, we do. And we find that it's palliative both to the family and to the officers. And I believe this caretaking of the community, the volunteering to go beyond what's in someone's job description actually promotes officer resiliency.
So can you tell me maybe some of the lessons you've learned in developing your community-oriented policing program or your CLEAR training program?
Well, that there's always more to learn, and that many of the ideas that we get, they come from the students, they come from staff that we've already partnered with. You know, the latest one that we haven't had a chance to implement yet is, we all know of National Night Out. That's the first Tuesday in August, but that doesn't really suit the college schedule, right? Because there's no students around. So we'd like to move something forward with that in the fall that sort of mirrors that community coming together on a college campus and make it something large scale. Of course, we do the floor events and so forth for incoming freshmen, but we'd like to have something like that for everybody, but particularly the freshmen who are coming for the first time. And, they're 3 months away from being a high school student. So we want to show that we're a resource for them.